It's a rare condition this day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page. Love and tradition of the grand design, some people say it's even harder to find. Well, then there must be some magic clue inside these gentle walls. It's all I see.
What's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know so. And welcome back to the Deep Dive series where we take a look at each and every NFL team and project how they will do in 2024. And today it's your Chicago Bears. But before we talk about the future, let's take a look at the past. The Bears opened the 2023 season with a rough outing against the Green Bay Packers, where both the offense and the defense struggled, and that would be the case for the next 2 weeks as well versus the Bucs and the Chiefs. Finally, in week 4, Justin Fields came alive and the Bears were beating the Broncos 28-7 late into the third quarter until everything just fell apart. Fields had costly turnovers and Denver was able to rally back for the 31-28 victory. The Bears would finally pick up their first win of the season against the Commanders in dominating fashion, but the taste of victory wouldn't last long as the following week Justin Fields would get hurt in a loss to the Vikings. Rookie Tyson Bagent got his first start and beat the Brian Hoyer-led Raiders. However, the rookie would get exposed in losses to the Chargers and the Saints. It was around this same time that the Bears acquired Montez Sweat from the Commanders, and Matt Eberflus also started moving more towards cover 3 coverage. While the offense still struggled with Bagent at the helm, the defense started to show their teeth and were to thank for a victory over the Panthers. Justin Fields would return in week 11 in a loss against the Lions, but now the defense was playing well. The Bears were starting to look competitive. They were victorious over the Vikings prior to their bye week, and then they avenged their loss weeks earlier by beating the Lions 28-3. Fields would go 4-3 to end the season, and the team looked more like what people anticipated them to be. The defensive turnaround was astonishing, as shown by their 3rd and 18th rankings in EPA defensively. Justin Fields may not have taken that next step as a passer, but he was deadly on the ground and helped the Bears be an 8th in rushing EPA. They were helped by an easy schedule, but there were certainly some bright spots. Unfortunately, the Bears had a difficult decision to make at quarterback since they also held the Panthers' first overall pick. Real quick, I gotta give a shout out to today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. I absolutely love Underdog Fantasy because I love football, and now that the football season is far and away, it doesn't mean my betting season has to be, because they do all kinds of sports, whether it's baseball, basketball, esports even. They got you covered, whether that's weekly best ball or my favorite, higher lower on player props. So if you sign up at Underdog Fantasy using promo code BROSHMO, then they will give you a first-time deposit up to $250. That's right. That's right. So if you're gonna go and bet with Underdog Fantasy, use promo code BROSHMO, take advantage of this offer, but please bet responsibly and bet within your means. The Bears would fire offensive coordinator Luke Getsy after the season. However, it wasn't enough to keep Justin Fields in Chicago for one more year. After free agency cooled off, they would trade Justin Fields to the Pittsburgh Steelers for chump change. The Bears would part ways with long tenure players like Eddie Jackson and Cody Whitehair, and they would opt to let some guys hit free agency like Darnell Mooney, Justin Jones, and Lucas Patrick. But let's talk about some of the additions that they made this offseason. In a curious move, at least to me, they decided to give DeAndre Swift 3 years, $24 million. Granted, I think like the first 2 years are guaranteed and then they could part ways with him after that. I get he's coming off kind of a career year. A year at least where he played really well for the Philadelphia Eagles. But I felt like they had the horses at running back with Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson. I mean, Travis Homer's there. He's very familiar with Shane Waldron. But I mean, I guess you had the money to spend, especially since you're not going to be paying a quarterback for the next few years. So you had the money to spend. Why not bring in more guys, more playmakers to the arsenal? Now, if this was the only move that they made in terms of playmakers, weapons on the offense, I would have problems with that. But they also managed to trade for Keenan Allen for relatively cheap, since he was pretty expensive. there in Los Angeles. But now you got Keenan Allen, you got DJ Moore. You're probably feeling hella good at wide receiver, and we'll talk about it because they didn't stop there. But Keenan Allen is a very good security blanket to have for a young rookie quarterback. So I like that. I like that addition quite a bit. Swift kind of gets included in this because, hey, a good run game will take some of that stress and pressure off of the quarterback. They also decided to pay Jalen Johnson, deservingly so. In my opinion, he is the best corner in the NFL, but I get it. If you don't feel that way, you don't feel that way. I don't think there's any arguing that he's a top 3, top 5 corner in the NFL, though. So rightfully, they paid him and honestly got him for a good deal. I thought he was going to be more expensive than that. They also added some offensive line depth here in Matt Pryor. They also went out and traded for Ryan Bates. They also brought in Cole Shelton, who was playing center for the Rams last year, while Ryan Bates, I think he was a little hurt last year, but he was held to like 100-some snaps last season. But Bates, a guy that I think the Bears actually tried to make a move for just a year ago. They were able to get him this year for like a 5th-round pick. He's a guy with experience at center and at guard, while Coleman Shelton has really only played center his whole career with minimal snaps there at guard. So you're going to get those two guys to contend for the center spot, which, in my opinion, when you look at this offensive line, there's really one glaring hole, and it's that center position. So you're going to get those two guys to compete. I kind of feel one way about who's probably going to get the starting job there, but with Bates's flexibility to kick out to guard if injuries were to occur, which they kind of did last year, then you have that flexibility on the offensive line. So I like that. I think that those were two very solid pickups by the Chicago Bears. They also added Gerald Everett, who's very familiar with Shane Waldron, dating back to their time in Seattle. Shane Waldron also, we'll get into his scheme once we get to the coaches, but cat that ran a lot of 12 and 13 personnel last season. Gerald Everett, while, yeah, the tank's not empty yet, he is another year older, and I think having him in a tight end 2 role is picture perfect because there's still something left in the tank there. There truly is, but with Cole Kmet as your starter there, it takes some of the, I guess, the usage, the reps away from Everett, allows you to keep him fresh. They also brought in Kevin Byard, which was, I think, a solid pickup. He may have had a down year by his standards because, I mean, think about it. Like, prior to last season, he was largely a top 10 safety in the NFL. And I thought he played fine. Just things didn't work out in Philly after the trade. He gets to come here. I think he'll do A-okay. They showed that they had some solid depth there with Elijah Hicks. Showed he could be more than just a special teamer. Can he be a high-end starter? Probably not. But at least now you have depth, and now you got a veteran presence in there at safety. They also added Jonathan Owens, another very good special teamer who saw actually a lot of starting time. He saw some significant snaps last season at safety as the Packers had some injuries at the position. So he comes in here that, again, could also play special teams, but he adds some depth to the position group. When it comes to the 2024 NFL draft, they only had 4 picks. Granted, 2 of those picks were the 1st and the 9th overall pick, but still in a very good draft class, only having 4 picks kind of blew. They were able to trade back into the draft in the 5th round, end up getting 5 picks out of this class, and I thought they did a hell of a good job. First and foremost, they go Caleb Williams with the first overall pick. I was pretty firmly in the, you probably should move on from Justin Fields. Not necessarily because he hasn't really shown anything, but in another year, you're going to have to figure out if you're going to pay him or not. So just reset the clock on that rookie contract with, to be fair, a prospect that many were higher on than what Justin Fields was going into his draft class. So they grabbed Caleb Williams. Wonderful pickup. Some people will throw the generational tag out there. I'm not there with with it when it comes to Williams. I think there's some stuff he could definitely clean up with his game. But in terms of arm talent, athleticism, pocket poise, like, he's got it. I think he's got the tools to be a special quarterback in the NFL. And then with the 9th overall pick, they were like, we ain't done adding weapons, and they get Rome Odunze. Perfect. They get a guy with size, speed. He was so much improved as a contested catcher in 2023. Adding him to the likes of Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, you are just giving Caleb Williams all of the weapons. You are giving him all of the opportunity to succeed and almost succeed immediately. And then in the 3rd round, they grab Kyron Amagaji, offensive tackle out of Yale, probably more of a project, a guy that has, for his whole career, played at a lower level of competition, being the Ivy League. But the tools are very impressive with him. Unfortunately, couldn't do the offseason draft process because of a quad injury. They then added a punter in the 4th round. I'm going to be honest with y'all, it kind of is what it is. I don't think punters and kickers should be drafted. You could get quality players at those positions as UDFAs. So, kind of whatever. But they moved back into the draft in the 5th round and got Austin Booker, who I thought showed some stuff during his last season here at Kansas at the Senior Bowl. I thought he was pretty solid. He is still pretty developmental, very unpolished, but I like taking the shot at him right here in the 5th round. But let's go ahead. Let's talk about this coaching staff. Jane Waldron enters as the offensive coordinator after formerly being the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. After Pete Carroll stepped down, he was allowed to go and interview for other jobs. He ends up landing here in Chicago, but prior to his tenure in Seattle, he was the passing game coordinator under Sean McVay for the Los Angeles Rams. So it's no surprise that some of his scheme is adapted from Sean McVay. Like Waldron, he loves pre-snap motion, he loves movement, he loves to create those mismatches. And on top of that, it's largely a wide zone, outside zone blocking scheme. He runs about 70% zone when it comes to run blocking. But there are some distinct differences in Waldron's offense. For instance, he likes his quarterback operating from under center. I think he was 9th in the NFL last year when it came to a quarterback being under center or from like a single back formation. Also, unlike Sean McVay, who loves his 11 personnel, his 3 wide, Waldron isn't afraid and actually kind of likes to dip into like 12 and 13 personnel early on downs. Truly does. And it's not like your traditional like 2 or 3 tight end sets. Like he'll line them up in some funky ways, and maybe you'll have like 3 or 4 players in the backfield just to keep the defense, well, off tilt. And I truly think Waldron is a brilliant, not just a play designer, but also a play caller. He knows how to layer his plays and then when to call the play action and take those deep shots. Like he did a great job with Geno Smith over there in Seattle. So I'm very excited what he's going to do with Caleb Williams and this offense. Now, when it comes to Matt Eberflus and this defense, they really hit their stride in the second half of the season. And Matt Eberflus has always shown himself to be an adaptable coach, willing to change things when they are not working. That goes back to his time as defensive coordinator at Indianapolis. And last season, you saw him move away from more of a soft zone cover 2 into more of a cover 3, deploy and press, allowing guys like Tyreek Stevenson and Jalen Johnson to really get physical. And it paid big dividends. It allowed him to disguise his defense a little bit better, allowed an extra defender to be there in the box. The run defense went through the roof in the second half of the season. And I can't wait to see what this defense looks next year. It's not so much that they added like better players. Like we kind of saw what this defense was starting to look like with the addition of Montez Sweat But now it's just another year in the system, especially like Tyreek Stevenson, who was definitely much better by the end of the season than he was at the beginning of his rookie year. But yeah, just seeing this defense to continually grow and mature. So I'm pretty excited. They're trending the right way. If you're unfamiliar with an Eberflus defense, it's an even front. You're not going to get a lot of blitz. He was, I think, 21st in the NFL last season when it came to his blitz rate. It's only about 22%. And they blitzed even less often in the second half of the season. But they were still managing to get better when it came to creating pressure. A lot of that had to do with Montez Sweat. When it comes to the defensive coordinator, if you're not familiar with Eric Washington, he was formerly the Bills' assistant head coach last season. He was the defensive line coach for the Bills for a few seasons. Prior to that, he did spend a year as a DC for the Panthers, while also being the defensive line coach for the Panthers for a hell of a long time. But now he returns to Chicago because I think that's where he first got his shot in the NFL as a defensive line coach or a defensive assistant back in 2010 for the Chicago Bears. But this is Eberflus's defense. Don't get it twisted. But a guy like Eric Washington in the building, I think, is a very, very good thing. But let's talk about the rest of this coaching staff, as you got Richard Hightower as the special teams coordinator. There are a few other interesting names here, like Thomas Brown. If you're unfamiliar with him, he was the OC for the Carolina Panthers last year. Did a little bit of the play calling. Things didn't really go ideal, but to be fair, not a lot went well in Carolina. But I'm fascinated that he is labeled as the offensive passing game coordinator. Because if you're familiar with Thomas Brown, he's largely been a running backs coach his whole career. If you go back to his days in college football, he was a running back coach everywhere in the Power 5. So now here listed as the passing game coordinator. I mean, granted, he is now under the learning tree of Shane Waldron. So I think that's going to be interesting. That's going to be fascinating. Dave Borgonzi has done a really good job with the linebackers there. You got John Hulk. Glad to see him still on the roster. He's done a really good job with the young corners there, and like Kyler Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson. You also have Chad Morton. He was running backs coach with Shane Waldron back in Seattle. He actually played in the early 2000s. If you're unfamiliar with him, you got Kenny Norton here. Just name I'm familiar with back in the day, but he's going to be the defensive quality control coach. But let's go ahead. Let's talk about this offense. So if you're watching this as a video, then you're going to see right next to me here, I have my grades for each of the position groups. We can start with the quarterback with Caleb Williams. I'm typically pretty conservative when it comes to rookie quarterbacks, and I just don't anticipate that they're going to be CJ Stroud every year. You know, I like to have realistic expectations for first-year quarterbacks, first-time starters. So that's why the quarterback grade here is as low as it is. But to be fair, it's not like they have any crazy names there as backups. As we'll get to that in a second. But Caleb Williams is truly could be something special. I'm very excited to see him in this offense under Shane Waldron with these weapons. I'm to the moon. Now, the running backs, I gave an A grade because they got some horses here. They just added DeAndre Swift to that. And then Caleb Williams also can be pretty special with his legs as well. That's why their grade is so high here at A-. I do think Swift, I mean, they gave him the money. I assume he is going to be their lead snap getter as long as he can stay healthy. The weapons, yeah, they're out of this world. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Mamma Mia, I love it. And then you add Roman Dunze to that bunch. You still got Cole Kmet, who had a solid year last year, and suddenly you're looking at this offense like, yeah, it looks really good, but I'll stay away from some of these guys when it comes to fantasy football. That's a lot of mouths to feed. It's a lot of mouths to feed, but it's a wonderful cast of weapons, and they got like okay depth behind those guys. We'll talk about it in a sec. When it comes to the offensive line, I am a little bit more down on its potential. As you'll see, I have like a C plus grade for their blocking. And I think part of that is, well, you have the uncertainty at center. Can like Tevin Jenkins stay healthy? Because he's really good when healthy. You got Nate Davis, which I believe last year he was going through, he missed some time because of some personal stuff going on in his life. Yeah, he lost his mother early in the year. That sucks, man. So like he wasn't really up to the same standard as I was accustomed to when he was with the Titans. So I'm kind of hoping he has that bounce back. On top of that, you got Darnell Wright, who was really looking good during the second half of the season, and you're hoping that transfers to season 2, but we just saw some of these guys like Evan Neal, Charles Cross, Ken McWandu have some really bad sophomore slumps. So I don't want to get my expectations too high, but I do think he should be trending in the right direction. So I got some questions when it comes to the offensive line and its ability to be consistent, and I think that's fair. I think that's a fair. But let's talk about some of the depth here. And I guess I'll go back to the quarterbacks. Okay. Tyson Bagent will be the starting backup quarterback. This is a cat who he had his rookie bumps and lumps. And I remember that first win, people are talking him up. And I was like, guys, his average depth per target was like 2.5. You can't put that all on Luke Getsy. I know Luke Getsy loves him some screens, but let's reel back. I think right now he's probably like a low-end backup. Let's see how he develops. Well, hopefully we won't have to see how he develops because that means Caleb Williams is healthy. They also got Rip in there as like their emergency quarterback. I imagine Austin Reed from Western Kentucky, UDFA, is probably going to be on the practice squad. Not really a big arm guy, so it's kind of is what it is. So you can see why I have it as a C grade. When it comes to the running back room, it's really good. Are these elite guys? No, but there's a lot of solid contributors here. Like Roschon Johnson is going to be that guy that can get you that tough yardage on 3rd and short or in the red zone. You got Khalil Herbert, who could take one to the house at any given play. He's got that bowling ball build and good long field speed. DeAndre Swift is coming off a really good year. Travis Homer has experience in Shane Waldron's offense. Very good passing option. So, like, they got quality players. Like, I love all 4 of these guys. They all have a role, but I do think Swift's probably going to be the lead snap getter there. Kari Blasingame is going to be the fullback. Did see some carries last year because of injury, but I imagine he gets retained because it's Shane Waldron, of course. He's going to keep himself a fullback. Going to the weapons. So, it's a little top heavy. At least that wide receiver. Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen. I think they all complement each other so well. They're guys that can slip in it, inside, outside. Rome Odunze gives you that big-bodied, just threat on the outside that has that speed that'll creep up on you. DJ Moore is just ridiculous. He's a yak machine. On top of that, crazy good speed. Keenan Allen is that security blanket, that very good possession receiver. So it's very top heavy. Tyler Scott, he's more of a vertical option in this offense. So I feel like him and Velus Jones serve the same role. I just think Tyler Scott's a better version of that. I wasn't that high on Velus Jones when he was coming out. So I think he could be on the roster bubble. DeAndre Carter, just a good player. Another guy with good speed. He brings return capabilities as well. But, like, where's the size, you know? Where's the size? They bring in guys like, Colin Johnson. He's got size, but is he making this roster? Probably not. Maybe Dante Pettis. Maybe. Outside of that, like, they got Freddie Swain. I'm not too familiar with the other UDFAs. So it's very, very top heavy. But at tight end, they got some guys, man. Gerald Everett. I love that pickup. He is such a good tight end, too, for this squad. Cole Kmet was a very reliable security blanket that had, for the most part, a breakout season last year. Let's pull up the stats real quick. Where he had 719 yards, 6 touchdowns. Good for him. I love it. Mercedes Lewis is going to be a very quality wide receiver 3. He's going to come in as that big blocker that also could be that big red zone threat. But if they're looking for maybe a little bit more mobility, then they're probably going to lean on probably Blasingame, if I'm being honest. But maybe like Steven Carlson or Tommy Sweeney. Maybe those guys make the roster. So, like, they got some horses, man. They got some horses. The offensive line, the depth isn't ideal, but I think it's more important. I do think Ryan Bates will edge out Coleman Shelton. I think Coleman Shelton might be the better option. He's played the more games recently. But Ryan Bates, at least his flexibility, his ability, he has way more snaps at guard in his career than Shelton. So I think Bates gets a start. If injury hits, Bates moves out to guard. Coleman comes in and plays center. Because let's be honest, with Tevin Jenkins there, he's probably not going to be playing all 17 games. He's starting to become like the Terran Armstead of the guard position. Not Pryor, he's quality depth, but depth nonetheless. Jatir Carter, there we go. Still someone they're developing, coming out of Southern University. Kieran Amagaji's just there to be developed right now. You probably don't want to see him start early. Though, I mean, a guy that was really just tools his first year, Braxton Jones, he made it work. So, I don't know, maybe if his number gets called, he comes out and impresses, and they can move on for Braxton Jones relatively early, because you can get some pretty draft capital for a player like that. Because we're in a league where, hey, it's hard to come by. Like, starting quality tackles are hard to come by. You also have Larry Borum, who is going to be their like lead backup at tackle. I think he's played both sides pretty well when called upon. I know some Chicago fans aren't too happy with him, or weren't big fans of him, but I think he's fine. I get it. Doesn't have like the craziest movement skills. Probably not the best fit for this offense, but I think he's played well whenever he needed to step in. Jake Curhan might make this roster. Just another guy that has had significant snaps in the NFL. Outside of that, like Doug Kramer was someone that I liked coming out of Illinois at center, but that dude's a lunging machine. He's constantly playing over his skis. Kind of is what it is. But I'm very excited about this offense, what it's going to look like. And I think they have the potential to put up a lot of points. And this is like, honestly, this is the most ideal circumstances I think a rookie quarterback can step in. Like, after being a first overall pick, coming into this type of situation, as a first overall pick, this is not typically the situation you are stepping into. So that is phenomenal. Let's go ahead. Let's move to the defense. As you'll see my grades for the run defense, the pass rush, and coverage over here to my, guess this is to my left. Maybe it's to my right on your screen. Regardless, you can see it. And Montez Sweat, man, he was a big difference maker. He's still creeping around. Is he like can he be like an elite edge player in the NFL? I think he's still kind of like a low-level to mid-level edge one right now, who you're just waiting for that one big breakout season from. Opposite of him, there's a few more questions. You got DeMarcus Walker, who I think is a very good rotation player. He gives you some versatility, but he's not like your ideal high-end edge 2. Last season, he had like 47 pressures, 4 sacks. I mean, he's a guy that's capable of kicking inside if you need him to, but like you're kind of looking for more. You're looking for more from that edge 2 position, and I think that's why they go and draft Austin Booker to try to develop that. When it comes to the depth behind those guys, it's literally nothing special. That's why I'm so down on the pass rush. But when you get to the interior, it gets a little better. I mean, Gervin Dexter during the second half of the season was a monster. It was a different type of player. He was a guy that had very interesting tools, great length, and he started showing. It truly did. Truly did, man. He was wreaking himself some havoc, 4 sacks, 29 pressures, and I think he takes that next step next season. Andrew Billings is really just kind of a space eater that can push the pocket at times, but really he's there just to eat space. The depth's not great behind them. Zach Pickens, probably the next guy up. He's still developing. He's more pass rusher than an actual run defender, so probably on passing downs, he'll step in. We'll see. I'll talk about the depth in a second. As we go to the linebacker core, one of the better linebacking duos here in TJ Edwards. Not the greatest athlete in TJ Edwards, but a very fundamentally sound player who won't find himself out of position too often. And then you got the athletic freak next to him in Tremaine Edmonds, who will just fly all around the field. As a matter of fact, last season, I believe it was actually pretty disruptive in coverage. 4 interceptions, 2 pass breakups. You like to see that. And honestly, Jack Sanborn played some good football last season as well. So I do like that linebacking core. But golly, I cannot wait to watch the secondary next season. Tyreek Stevenson kind of had a rough go at it to begin the year. But man, once they started moving more towards cover 3 from cover 2, I think he really started to shine. I truly did, man. And I like the direction he's progressing at. And I mean, to be fair, like, you're a rookie corner, and opposite of you is one of the best corners in football, in Jalen Johnson, who, I mean, I remember Johnson coming to the league. He was very much a high risk, high reward, and now he's so much more calculated. But yeah, man, targets are going to come your way. You're going to have to be able to handle it. Good luck, Godspeed. But I thought he handled it very well down the stretch. Kyler Gordon, I think he's doing a good job in that slot role. That was kind of him coming out. Is he a slot? Is he an outside corner? He's really settled down and done exceptionally well in that slot role. Jaquan Brisker. Oh, you want to talk about when this team made the move to more cover 3? It was Brisker who was the guy creeping into the box, making plays in the run game. That's his bread and butter. He sees the field so well when it's in front of him. He can make plays underneath. I love that. Kevin Byard's going to be that guy that's going to be patrolling the deep areas of the field. So I'm very excited. That's why I got the good grade with coverage with B+. With honestly, if a guy like Tyreek Stevenson just continues to develop, that grade will only get better. But let's talk about some of the depth on this defense. As I mean, a big part of why this team got better at defending the run was that extra defender in the box. But like, Billings is a really good run defender. I feel like sometimes he just doesn't get enough credit for that. Just because what he can do as a space eater. You also got guys like DeMarcus Walker, who's also very good at defending the run. They add Jacob Martin. He's fine. He's really nothing more than depth at this point. And you get to the other guys there, like Dominic Robinson. He was a developmental guy coming out of Miami, Ohio, and he's really just been a liability when on the field. So like, that's why they go out and they take a shot on a guy like Austin Booker. Khalid Kareem is there. He's kind of a journeyman rotation player at this juncture. Jamari Crama was primarily like a bigger edge player there at James Madison. So I'll be interested. I think there's a shot maybe he can make the team, just given its current, just given what it looks like currently. And then on the interior, man, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, man. Was it Dwum for? Not too familiar with this cat's game. Couldn't tell you much about him, but he's gonna be in the edge rotation. Honestly, Brian Cowart, not a bad guy to have there on the rotation. They pick up Keith Randolph Jr. as a UDFA. I think he probably has a good shot to make the team because the depth just isn't great. And at the end of the day, that's my biggest fear with this defensive line is the depth just isn't that great. Fortunately, it gets a lot better at the second level because, for one, you got Edwards, you got Edmonds, you got Sanborn. They also have Noah Sewell, who they're developing. He's just this like old school thumper who will come in and make plays in the run game. I don't see him really being on the field during passing situations. Micah Baker, was it Baskerville? I believe he was out of Texas Tech. No, it was LSU. I do remember him from one of the, it was like a Senior Bowl. It was an all-star game. It may have been like the NFLPA Bowl or something where he, man, it feels so long ago, but I think it was like he took his helmet off and swung it or something. It was like he was involved in a dirty play and you were like, yeah, that's going to make you a UDFA. But he was a guy coming out with some good traits. So, be on the look for him to potentially make that roster, but Eamon O here probably got a foot on him just because of what he can do in special teams. Going to the secondary, Terrell Smith, so underrated. He was so good last year for this squad when you had injuries hit, and he was able to step up in a big way. Had 4 pass deflections, only allowed a completion rate of 58.1%. So you love that. You love that if like one of your starting corners get banged up, that he can step in and actually do something. Past that, Jalen Jones, a safety convert from Ole Miss, maybe makes the roster, did test out well. Already, you got Reedy Stewart, who was coming out of Troy. I think he was a bit undersized. I am to be correct. Might be just on the shorter end of the spectrum. 5'10". Okay, it's 178. So yeah, he's a little bit undersized. Might be more of a slot player in the NFL. Greg Stroman feels like he's been on every team in the league at this point. Kind of wild, but is what it is. Tarvarius Moore is an interesting name at the safety position. I'm kind of curious if he can make the squad because I feel like they signed Owens. Hicks kind of proved like, yeah, no, he's a guy you want to have on the squad. Can he make it as a safety 5? But I mean, that's good company to be in, honestly. Like, that's some depth I like. Quindell Johnson, I liked coming out of Memphis. Just a guy that was a ball hawk. He's kind of a long shot to make the squad, though. But I'm a big fan of Hicks. If injuries were to hit, I have a lot of faith of him stepping in and doing a hell of a good job. You know, am I saying he's going to give you the same type of production as guys like Bayard or Brisker? Probably not, but I don't think he's as big as a liability as some other backups around the league. That's why I'm still pretty relatively high on this defense. I have them with a B- overall. And I'm just kind of curious, can they repeat what they did down the stretch? It was an easier schedule last season. And I mean, to be fair, they actually have one of the easier schedules this year. But I mean, okay, let's go ahead. Let's talk about how I project this team to do in 2024. So as I mentioned, I have the Bears having one of the easier schedules in the league. I have them having the 4th easiest schedule in the league. And let's just go ahead and go by the week by week. As they open the year against the Tennessee Titans, very winnable game there. They do get, well, the Texans and the Colts at home. Let's say maybe they're able to shock one of these two squads. Let's go with the Colts. Rams, man. Rams, I feel like that's going to be a little bit tougher, man. This is a team that is more so ready to win now while still trying to build, but they did lose Aaron Donald. How will that defense be? Like, okay, let's give them a win there. Let's give them a win against the Panthers because, well, Panthers are still in their rebuild. I think they could beat the Jags at home going into their bye. They open the bye with the Commanders. Commanders, honestly, I think they're going to take their bumps and bruises. But, hey, man, don't sleep on the Commanders. Dan Quinn, I got a lot of faith as a head coach. Cardinals are going to be a winnable game. Patriots, you get them at Soldier Field. Packers, let's say you sneak a win by the Packers this year. Let's say this is the year. Let's say it's not. Never mind. I take that back. Maybe the Packers are still you know what? Nah. Y'all close the year with a win against the Packers. Let's give you a win here. Let's say you go 3-3 in the division. Let's say you go 3-3 in the division. Though, I mean, having 2 wins against the Vikings isn't out of the realm of possibility. It truly, truly isn't. But you end the year with the Packers in Lambeau. The Seahawks, Shane Waldron gets to face his old team. That's a team kind of I got questions about. So again, we're trying to project their ceiling. So let's say they win all these. These are all winnable games. Switch this one over. So 13 wins. Again, it's a big ceiling, right? 13 wins. That's like if this offense ends up being everything and more. Caleb Williams ends up being the truth. Oh, fun fact, he was generational. The defense just continues to progress. So there's your best case scenario. However, let's talk about reality because this is a rookie quarterback. Again, not everyone's going to have the year CJ Stroud had, especially as a first-time starter. So let's say Caleb Williams does take his bumps and his lumps. Let's say the defense doesn't necessarily regress, but let's say, okay, maybe they aren't. Maybe they're a bit more the same as we saw in the second half of the season, which was still pretty darn good. So I'm going to kind of lowball them right now, and I'm going to go with 7-10. And I think it's going to be a very good-looking 7-10. I think they're going to be very competitive. I mean, dude, to be fair, last year down the stretch, they were extremely competitive, and they went 4-3. Let's say they end up being very, like, because there's a lot of competitive games in here, in my opinion. Like, I think this Rams one could go either way. The Jags, who knows what Jags team we're going to get next year. Maybe the Packers go back to being your daddies. Win both. Seahawks are better than anticipated. Even with that, I mean, I have y'all at 9 wins, so I am kind of lowballing it a little bit, just based on how I feel most rookie quarterbacks perform in year one. Let's actually take this Colts one away. So, like, okay, I think probably their range is 7 to 9 wins. I feel like that's safe. I feel like a lot of people are going to come out and be like, oh, man, this is going to be like a 9-10 win team. And I think that's fair. I think I'm kind of shortchanging it. Just maybe because I'm going too into, well, Caleb Williams is a rookie. But you also got to look at the situation. He's in a very good situation. But can guys like Keenan Allen, Tevin Jenkins, can those guys stay healthy? Will center not be a big liability? Like, there's a lot of questions. Let's not pretend like oh, it's a sure thing that this team's going to get 10 wins. But I will say I do think I am underrating them quite a bit. But go ahead. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. That's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I probably said that 6 times. Is what it is. But if you want to check out more football content, I've been doing my rankings, my summer scouting for the 2025 NFL draft. And on top of that, I've been doing deep dives for the NFL. So you can check out, if you want to know how the Vikings will do, go ahead, check out that video down there. But as always, until next time, be easy, my friends. Later.